Mangwanani,
Mascara say,
Makadini.
we are the Katiyos.
Today is a different type of show. We're going to discuss a few serious topics. We're going to talk about the issue of self-esteem. And more importantly, we're going to hear my Katiyo's journey to finding a self-esteem. I'll be her interviewer today. My Katiyo, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm fine. Could you start with a brief introduction? Let's say someone's new to our channel, they have no idea who you are. Can you give us a quick, brief introduction about who you are, where you were born, where you are staying?
Sure. My name is Tatenda. I was born on the 15th of October. I'm 24 years old. I was born in Zimbabwe and I moved to Australia when I was 5 years old. And that's where I have been living ever since. I'm happily married, no children.
Lovely. So, from following you, we know that you make a lot of content with me and a lot of content by yourself as well. You seem like a very confident young lady. Has this always been the case?
No, it hasn't always been the case. I took some time to get to the point where I am today. It was a learning experience.
It was a learning experience. Okay. So does that imply that at one point in your life, your self-esteem or self-confidence was very low?
Yeah, definitely. I think we all go through that stage in our life or have been to a certain stage where we go through low self-esteem, low self-confidence. So yeah, definitely I've been through that.
Could you take us back to that time? How old were you and what were you feeling?
I think my low self-esteem sort of started around the time when I was getting into high school / finishing primary school here in Australia. And it was sort of that point where you are trying to figure out who you are. But I think for me at around that time, it was a little bit more difficult because I was a minority. So you're sort of trying to figure yourself in a world where you don't really find someone like yourself.
Okay. What about yourself were you unsure of, or what didn't you like about yourself?
A lot of things other than the way that I looked, my skin color, my hair, a lot of factors that made me who I was in terms of being black, being African, were things that I, necessarily didn't like about myself because they did make me stand out, as well as, being a lot smaller than a lot of people my age, being a lot skinnier than a lot of people my age. That also contributed to how I felt about myself in the way that I thought I looked.
I once made a video which I talked about when you were interviewing me, and I talk about how some people actually attacked that video and said, you know what, racism, they never experienced racism here in Australia. In fact, white people loved their accent, this and that. You mentioned your skin color. You went to school here, primary here. Tell us, were comments said about your skin color? Were comments said about your hair? Why? Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, at around the time I grew up and was becoming an older young lady, it was 2006, 2007. So there wasn't many Africans, black people, this, that. So it was a bit taboo to have a little African girl in your class with, you know, little puffs as her hair instead of little pigtails that went all the way down to here.
Yeah.
As well as, you know, the darkest people that were around or that were socially acceptable were Italians.
Okay.
You know, so being dark skin was quite taboo in Australia, and you did get a lot of comments about being dirty. I remember a lot of people would think that you were not clean, you were dirty, not that it was your actual skin color. So comments about you being dirty and comments about you being black and dark, and you would be, you know, compared to like coal and things like that. And I remember once there was we were learning about this story of Santa Claus and the real Santa Claus from like wherever he's from, and the reason why he gave coal and this and that, and how the elves were covered, or somebody was covered in like soot, like coal, and it made them look dark and things like that. And I remember once someone saying something about like your skin, like Tatenda skin type of thing, which is like, as a child you're just like okay, cool, like I already know I stand out, you don't need to compare dark things or negative things to my complexion. Yeah.
I mean, okay, so during this time, how did you deal with these comments? Did you have somewhere to go, someone to run to, someone to talk to? How did you navigate during this tough time in your life?
Yes and no. Like, I would say no in the sense of I didn't have anyone that I really spoke to about it. It's more so that I sort of got past it and got over it, but there was a pivotal point in time where I had just sort of reached my peak, and I came home crying to my mother, and my mother was really like, you know, you can't allow them to get to you, you can't let them trigger you like that. She didn't say that, but I'm summarizing. But that was one of the only pivotal conversations that I've ever had with one of my parental figures about racism and blatant racism to me. And since then, that conversation with my mother about not allowing them to get to me, that's when I just sort of was like, okay, like this is a thing that happens, but I have to make sure that it doesn't attack me or offend me. Like it's in my control. It's not the other people's control.
Okay. Did you have a lot of friends during that time? Australian friends? Did you have a hard time making friends at school? Yeah.
Yes and no. I do remember I had one really close friend in primary school. Later on in high school, things changed and everyone was a little bit more accepting. But when I first started school, definitely I was quite alone, as well as the fact that I started later than the rest of my age group. I was coming from Africa. You know, this is Australia. A lot of things were different. So I didn't really have friends beginning, but as the years sort of went on in primary school, I did end up getting more friends. But I wouldn't say I was popular or anything like that, especially in primary school.
So you were not getting picked first for things?
No, I was not getting picked first for a lot of things. Group activities, you know, majority of the time the teacher would place you with someone after everybody has already chosen their friends and whatever. So yeah, it was things like that would really hit the nail on the head, that like you were not like us here.
Wow. I would like to now move on to your weight and being smaller than the other kids. Can you tell us where that came from, where you saw yourself as being smaller or you saw yourself as being underweight?
I mean, a lot of people always had comments to say about my weight.
Can I ask which people?
It was primarily people from within my culture. So Zimbabwean people would have a lot to say about my weight compared to other people my age, as well as just in general, that I was a lot smaller than the other girls in terms of body weight, a lot skinnier than the other girls, you know, comments about what I'm putting on my plate, how much I'm eating, if we're at a party or Zim Independence dinner, this, that, around those times, you know, people would check, you know, oh, what do you need to add more on your plate, or did you eat, have you eaten, are you eating, questions like that. Yeah.
So you were having a hard time at school, you were having a hard time within your community, you're sort of caught between a rock and a hard place, not black enough, not white enough. How did that make you feel?
I guess it just made me feel like I wasn't enough. It kind of made you wonder in which world should I be in. Yeah.
Obviously, a lot has changed for you since then. You are now, it's Tatenda, it's Tatenda. You're now making videos that are touching people from all walks of life, from all corners of the earth. How did you transition from being this girl who was not happy with her skin, not happy with her weight, caught in no man's land, to become the woman that you are today?
I guess I got to a point where I matured as an adult, or as a young adult, as well as getting to a place where I sort of understood myself a bit better. So I'll say that all changed when about 7 or so years ago, when I decided I wanted to cut my hair and go natural. And that is sort of, at that time, was a big step, considering that even within my own community I was getting called names about my hair. So
what did they say?
Oh, that it's unkept, it's not clean, it's not nice. I'd have people go, oh, when are you gonna relax your hair? When are you gonna relax your hair?
Yeah.
So cutting my hair and going natural was sort of the ultimate way of just being like, you know what, I'm gonna take myself as I am, hair and all, body and all, skin and all. And around that time, we also had a lot of, people starting their natural hair journey, especially online. A lot of celebrities coming out with natural hair, and things like that, that sort of made you want to be yourself a bit more, more than you were feeling like being yourself before.
Okay. So a lot of people watch you, a lot of people from all corners of the earth, from all walks of life, from all stages of life at different ages. And all of these people are at different stages within their own self-image, self-esteem journey. What would you like to say to someone who can maybe relate to your story, who doesn't really like their skin, their weight, their hair? What can you say to someone like that who's watching now?
I would have to say that self-love is a journey that you have to decide to take, and it's not a journey that can happen overnight. and it's a journey that you take on your own, but it's a very rewarding journey. Once you get to the other side, there's really no going back. There's only going further. But it's one of those decisions that you have to make within yourself and agree that I want to love myself and actively take steps into loving yourself. And that means going against the grain, because going with the grain is succumbing to what everyone has said and says about you. Also, the other part is accepting the fact that you are perfect, flaws and all, and God made you perfect. So in saying that, by accepting that you are perfect and that the way you are is perfect in God's eyes, you are agreeing with God. But if you believe that you are not perfect in your own eyes, you are saying to God that whatever God has said and whatever God has put in place is incorrect. And we know that God's plans are perfect and that everything He's created is perfect. So by loving yourself, you are agreeing to the plan and what God has said about you.
Okay. It's been lovely hearing about your journey. Do you have any last remarks before we close?
No, I don't.
So you're a woman of very few words, I see.
Yes, I am.
Well, thank you for taking time out of your busy life to sit down with me. Thank you for being open. Thank you for showing us some of your scars. And thank you for sharing your journey of self-image, self-esteem, and self-identity in many ways. Thank you. And I look forward to having more discussions of this nature with you. And from us to you guys who are watching at home, thank you for watching. I hope that you were blessed. I hope that you're left feeling inspired. And I hope we've added value to your life in some form, in some way. God bless you all and take care. Bye.